This episode is brought to you by PS Kitchen, located at 246 West 48th Street, right in between Times Square and Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. PS Kitchen is dishing out sophisticated fare using fresh ingredients. I love their PS Burger. It tastes so good, and their fries are really good too. It's worth every dollar. PS has signature cocktails, a late-night menu, and a full event space upstairs, which I actually get to record some of these podcast episodes in. So check it out, ps-kitchen.com. They also serve brunch, which is as good as dinner, I imagine. I haven't had it yet, but I'm going to have to check it out real soon. And if all of this doesn't sound amazing enough already, they're open for lunch, brunch, and dinner until 11 p.m. Sunday to Wednesday and until 2 a.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's plant-based, and all profits go to charity. And the owners are really nice, too. So check them out, ps-kitchen.com.
Good morning, Vietnam!
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't lie!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're gonna get.
My next guest is a Tony Award winner, a Grammy Award winner, an NAACP Award winner. This man has done countless Broadway shows. He is Billy Porter. We discussed The Soul of Richard Rodgers, an album recently released that he created, and it's incredible. You should check it out. It's on YouTube. We discuss his performance in Angels in America and how he quite literally spoke it to a fan on the street, and he was in it. we know how that story ends. We discussed showing up for your life. It's a big motto of his that he lives by, and it's so true. You really have to show up for your life. With that, we also discuss him navigating through his life and much, much more. So I hope you enjoy this episode and keep on keeping on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another episode of Entertainment X, and today with me is the Billy Porter.
The Billy Porter.
The.
My handle on
Yes,
Twitter
sir.
and Facebook. THEE, because I want you to pronounce it right. The.
Yeah, exactly. And Instagram, too.
And Instagram,
They can get you on
yes.
all that. So let's rewind for you and go back to the beginning of time or whatever you want to call it. Back to that, was it that second Sunday in June 1982 when you're watching the Tony Awards?
Yeah.
Was that... Well, we'll talk about that for a second, but was that your defining moment for pursuing this, or did it come before
that was
that?
a defining moment. Yeah, I had been in middle school. We were bused. It was desegregation the second time, and we were bused about a half hour away, and they had these after school programs, and I wasn't really fitting in, and I was reading the after school programs, and there was something called Reisenstein Musical Theater. The school was Reisenstein. And I didn't know what theater was. I didn't know what musical theater was. But I went because I thought I could sing there. And I knew I could sing.
Yeah.
And then we discovered what a musical was. You know, I auditioned. We did Babes in Arms. It was great. I had fun. But, you know, Rodgers and Hart wasn't the way, in its original form, wasn't the way that I sang in church. So I had no reference point to thinking that could be something that I could do as a profession, and I didn't know it was a profession. You know, like it didn't register. And then I saw the Tony Awards.
What was that moment for you? Did you watch the Tony Awards each following year? Was that like a thing that became almost ritualistic for you?
I mean, yes, of course. I saw the Tony Awards that year. I saw Jennifer Holliday sing, and I thought, oh, well, you could make money doing that? Like, that's a living? Like, that looks like a living because they're on TV.
Yeah.
And it looked like a good living, you know, because it was like
great
black
living.
people in gowns and, you know, black people glamorous and on stage. And, you know, you just didn't see much of that.
Yeah.
So I thought, I think I might be able to do this. And I just immersed myself in any way that I could from
That's
there on
wonderful.
out. I was 11.
Okay. What did theater do for you in your childhood?
It just took me, it saved my life. It took me out of my environment. You know, I was in the ghettos of Pittsburgh and, you know, gay and the church and, you know, just not feeling like I had anywhere to turn. And it just introduced me to a whole different way of life. It introduced me to possibility in a way that I had never received it before.
Yeah.
You know, possibility was talked about, but it was inside of the theater that I understood what my possibilities were,
Yeah.
you know. So, yeah.
Okay. So after seeing that and after doing theater through your youth, you also, and I think I heard you say this or read this, that you would start circling auditions that you would have gone to in like.
Well, I had to first get a subscription to Backstage Magazine.
Okay.
So at 15, I got a subscription to Backstage Magazine
Yeah.
that was delivered to my house in Pittsburgh.
Yes, it
and I would
was.
circle the auditions
Yes.
that I would have gone to had I lived in New York.
Yeah.
Yes, I
yeah.
did that.
And there was, so this is another interesting question then. So there was two teachers that kind of forbid you from going to New York or said you shouldn't. I don't know if I'm remembering
Yes,
this
why?
correctly or not.
I don't know why you know that, but yes.
Well, like, you know, it did a little bit of homework, you know.
Yes.
Was there any thought of going to school in New York or was
I did
like,
think about going to school in New York, but I didn't get into NYU.
Okay.
I got into everywhere else, but I didn't get into NYU.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't get into NYU because Carnegie Mellon was the best place for me. Carnegie Mellon was the better program.
Yeah.
At the time, Carnegie Mellon was the better program. And it was less distracting for me to be in Pittsburgh and not in New York so that I could actually finish and get my training and finish. Like I you know, I was less distracted.
Yeah. And you would go, well, so I'm just going to start repeating stuff that you've already said before, and then we could expand on it and continue to do it in this fashion. You would work here in the city on the summers.
Yes.
Because you're like, I could work at McDonald's out there, work out here
Yes.
because of the theater gigs.
Well, yeah, I wasn't
I love that
getting
idea.
much work.
I love that idea. Like that's just.
I wasn't booking much work. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of diversity.
Yeah.
You know, there were cliques for summer stock work out of Pittsburgh, and I wasn't booking anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, these people are stupid. So I'm going to go to New York and see if they're any smarter.
Yeah. What lessons did you learn from being here in New York? Because I know you'd like go to the auditions, right? And you'd work. Were there like life lessons or major takeaways from those college summers that you were here?
Well, yes. The biggest lesson was you have to show up for your life. You have to engage. You have to go to the auditions. You have to stand in line outside. You have to pay your you know, like
You got to put your time
that's
in.
just what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I would sign up non-equity and wait all day. That's what you had to do.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. You know, and I find very often I speak to people now and they're like, oh, I can't do it. I can't get anything. And, you know, you ask them when their last audition was and they can't tell you.
No recollection. Yeah.
You know, it's like there are auditions every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was my favorite thing to do, audition. It's still my favorite thing to do.
Why?
Because there is very often a expectation. People make decisions about you, about what you can and cannot do. And the only space where you get to change expectation or shift people's opinions about you is in the audition room.
And So you're speaking, I would say, specifically on like when you walk into the room, what they see versus before you, like after you open your mouth, and what they get from you with
Both.
singing.
Both. I mean,
Yeah.
when I first started out, it was just get me in the room and let me, do my thing.
Right.
Once I got in the room and realized that the trump card I had played to get gigs, was not actually the path or the trajectory that I ultimately wanted to be on for the long term. I had to go back and change everybody's expectation, because y'all think I'm this and I'm not. And I'm still doing that,
And so what exactly do you mean by that specifically?
I mean, everybody receives me as a clown. Everybody thinks I'm a clown. Everybody thinks that I'm supposed to show up, blow the roof off the joint, and go to my dressing room and shut the fuck up. That's what people expect.
Yeah.
And when I realized that that's what was happening, which was in Greece,
Yeah.
14 inches of orange rubber hair, a spacesuit, like a clown.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm an actual human being who has stories to tell, and y'all don't want to hear my stories. You want to hear me scream and holler, but it's not connected to anything. It's not there's no reason for it other than you want me to stop your show.
Yeah.
So,
Like entertainment with no substance.
yeah. And so I had to pull myself out of that trajectory and change the conversation.
Which is difficult.
Yeah, very.
Continuing.
Yeah, very
Okay.
difficult. I didn't work on Broadway for 13 years.
Yeah. Okay. I have. Well, we can go there right now. So I'm curious, as far as Greece was concerned, how you mentally prepared yourself for the conversation, with your agent, with going forward with that, because was
I
something you
didn't
want
take
to do.
it.
You didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to audition for it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take the job.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do the job. On the first day of auditions and I saw the costume, I was like, this is going to destroy me.
Right.
I can tell you now, this is going to destroy everything that it is that I am trying to be and do.
No.
And, my agent at the time was absolutely correct in that it got me recognition. I was,
Yeah.
and that Rosie O'Donnell, who subsequently fell in love with me and I was on her show, like it had really, really great things.
Yeah.
There were really, really great things that came from it, and really challenging things that I had to ultimately overcome.
So in the end, are you glad you took it?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything.
Okay. Hey,
You have
no
to-
regrets.
No.
Yeah.
Please.
It's too short. Life's too short.
No
It is.
regrets at all, because it actually forced me to fight for what I want. It helped me define clearly what I wanted and go and fight for that.
And so what exactly do you mean by what you wanted?
I wanted to be a human being. I wanted to be received as an artist, as a human being, not a clown.
On and off that stage.
And
Yeah.
it took a while, but that has happened.
Good. That's good. So changing their mindsets. You had back to Saigon was like your first thing out of college, and you had they said ask for pop rock. So you sang was it R&B, and then they said we
No,
want
I sang Pity the Child.
Pity the Child.
From Chess, and I sang it my own way, because in the music it says R&B. I mean, in the music it says ad lib. Ad lib means do what you want.
Yes.
Not what the white man did on the tape from London.
Yeah.
Ad lib means do what you want. And where I come from, that comes off as gospel, that comes off as R&B. If I'm ad libbing, it's going to be authentically from the musical genres that have influenced me personally, which there's a lot of theater in it, but there's also more of the other stuff.
Right. And then you went back. What was the song you sang for them when they told you to come back and sing something completely different?
Nessun Dorma.
And how was that received?
the back of their heads blew off and I got the job. That's how it was received.
I don't even know why I asked that question because we all know how it was received.
I got the gig. Before college was over, I got the gig.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And then so we're going to do a lot of jumping around, as you can tell. Right after Grease, you did Merchant of Venice?
Yes. That's the thing that nobody remembers.
Did that bring you temporary relief from the orange hair?
Yeah. Yeah, I went from Grease to the Merchant of Venice at the Public with Ron Liebman, who had just come off of winning the Tony for Angel in America. Nobody remembers that.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that part.
Mm-hmm. What was that experience like?
It was just great because it was a step in the direction that I wanted to go. It was a step in, sort of people receiving me as a fully formed human being.
Mm.
Like I keep saying, the millennial, the clown. It's like, I don't have a problem with being the clown, but not when it's disconnected to something that's real and human.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that goes on with black entertainers, There's this tradition of just come and entertain me.
Just wow us. And it's like, no, there's way more.
But at what cost? There's always been a cost.
Yeah. So after Merchant of Venice, is that when, because you were starting to I don't even know if I'm going to articulate this correctly. You were starting to create your own path and you were going to go do your own thing regardless of what, and the money dried up, the opportunities kind of veered away. But there were signs that kind of, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly. There was like acid reflux that was involved. There was like some things that came up.
Well, that
were
was
kind of like,
that was in 2000.
Okay.
So we're skipping from 94.
I'm jumping.
to that's all good. From 94 to 2000, I had a record contract in between that. I had done Smokey Joe's Cafe. I had gone back to Saigon, which was also a reprieve from clowning, because they finally let me play John in 99. And that was really, really morale boosting for myself.
Did it give you hope?
Yeah. It was a lot of hope. And then I moved to Los Angeles because I had booked a couple of movies here in New York and in 99, and we went, and two of them went to Sundance, and I thought, well, let me try my record contract had dried up, and I just wanted to try something new. And so I went out to Los Angeles in 2000, January 2000. And I don't know, being black and gay and not really interested in lying about it at that time was not really the thing to do.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much work. There wasn't much opportunity. And I ended up going to grad school in the screenwriting program out there, but 9/11 just messed me up.
Yeah.
And reflux set in, severe reflux set in, and I started to have vocal problems in a way that I had never had vocal problems. I had always had cords of steel, and all of a sudden I was having vocal problems, for at least a year and a half. For at least 6 months I couldn't even phonate. I sounded like this for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then it sort of started to get better. The talking was hard. The singing was non-existent. That was difficult. The voice was my savior. The voice was my weapon, my savior, everything. And all of a sudden it went away.
I have a few questions on this. Would you say singing is your spiritual practice? Or do you have multiple?
I have multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's part of it. That is a part of my practice. I feel like that was a gift. That was something that I was born with.
Yeah.
You know, singing, I just could do it. You know.
Yeah.
But I kept saying I'm more than my voice. I'm more than my voice. But I didn't have the courage to step away on my own. I don't think I had the courage to step away on my own. I really think it was the universe, God, whatever it is you believe in, that kind of set it up to where that had to go away. The voice had to go away for me to then challenge myself to dig deeper creatively.
Yeah. For me personally, I find that signs, because I believe in that, you know, the universe gives you answers if you ask, and they typically get loud, you know, loudest before they stop. If you don't hear them, you're unhappy for a while. And so what would you give anyone advice on listening to signs, or is there like, I don't want to say it's a cultivated, but is there any, I don't know, lessons learned from that you would kind of, like, people who are not maybe not listening to it or struggling with listening to it?
You know, fear is an amazing thing, you know, because it will paralyze you forever. And I just think when you hear what the truth is, sometimes it's hard to find the courage to act. And if there's any advice I would give is listen and find the courage to act on it, to act on what you're hearing. And still to this day, I have moments. I just went through some stuff last week where I was like, I knew from the beginning. Well, but I just knew from the beginning this job was bullshit. Okay. You know, but I took it anyway because I was trying to whatever. You know, it's hard, you know, because we're freelance artists, you know, so our livelihood is also wrapped up in our decisions. And sometimes we have to make decisions that are not in our best interest because we need that medical insurance, or we need to pay that rent, or we need to, you know, so it's an interesting balance.
It is. It's a big balancing act. It is. When you were back out in LA, those years that passed between doing, was it Merchant of Venice, Greece, and you went out to LA and you pursued
Smokey Joe's Cafe,
the career. Sorry, I forgot that one.
That's all right.
You got comfortable. I imagine you got comfortable with not knowing the answers, or even if not that point in your life.
I don't know that I ever got comfortable with not knowing the answers, but I surrendered to not knowing the answers. I surrendered to that open energy and just allowing for whatever is supposed to happen to fall into place. Now, that doesn't mean you're not active. That doesn't mean you're not contributing to the space that allows for your focus and your dreams, your ideas to come true. I really do know that it was when I got specific. If there's one thing that I can say about how things turned around for me, is that I got specific with my dreams, not just I want to work.
Yeah.
you know, or I want to be a star, which is naive and narcissistic, you know. But how can you, I mean, I was watching Oprah, as I'm wont to do.
She's great.
And they were talking, she and Maya Angelou and Ayan Levinsant were one day speaking of service. And it just hit me. It was like, oh, right, service. Like, how can I be of service to something other than my own ego and my own bank account in a profession that is inherently narcissistic?
Was that recent, the Oprah that you listened to?
That was way, way back. You know, it was in the early 2000s.
How did you surrender? Because you said you surrendered to. Is that just like you just did?
You just do. I mean, I don't know how. I just did. There was no other choice. You know,
Yeah.
there was no work. There was no, like, I just had to surrender
Yeah. Yeah.
or die or lose your mind or, you know, like, it's like.
Yeah, going crazy, doing stuff you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah. So, Kinky Boots has, and I heard you say this and I love it, it has healing properties for the world, the show. And one moment that comes to mind is Lola and her father with forgiveness in the, okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What did that teach you about forgiveness? And what advice would you give someone about forgiveness? So you can
Forgiveness
answer
is a
either.
daily practice. You know, forgiveness is something that you recommit to every day. You know, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not.
You think you're getting better?
But that show, yes. But that piece, you know, Miss Lola, I call her Miss Lola, my alter ego. You know, there was a space in that where the character had to forgive her father every day.
Yeah.
That's where I learned the practice of it every day. It's like, oh, it's every day. And sometimes I wake up and it's easy to recommit to the forgiveness. And sometimes I wake up and I just want to rail and, you know, break things before I get to forgiveness again. But, you know.
It's learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day. So through Lola, what did that teach you about leadership?
Lola is, that's very interesting. That's a great question. Say the question again.
Through playing Lola, what did that teach you about leadership?
Well, it taught me to own my own spot and position in this industry, in this world, as a leader. I've always been a leader. And when you look different, when you present differently from all of the other leaders that have come before you, there's a lot of pushback. And there's a lot of denying. There's a lot denying it. There's a lot of dismissal of a person. And I just have spent a lot of time trying to embrace that and own that. That I am a leader, that I am a trailblazer, and the things that I've done and the things that I've done nobody else has done. You know, shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's like to honor that without narcissism, to honor that
Through service
is really special. And that's what Lola felt like. That's what Kinky Boots felt like. You know, I don't feel like, I feel like had I not chosen the road less traveled and honored my own truth in the face of no work, bankruptcy, you know, on the precipice of obscurity for over a decade, you know, people were done, you know, it was over. My time had come and it didn't happen. And a lot of people felt like, well, you know, you know, to reemerge in this spot, you know, and to not be afraid of it, you know, because with as far as we've come in the conversation in terms of diversity and difference, the unspoken, and especially with gay people, LGBTQ people, you know, it's still better if you're straight. The end. Still better. It's popular at the moment. It's trendy at the moment to be gay and out and blah, blah, blah. But it's still better if you're straight. And that's really, you know, when one knows that,
Yeah.
you know, it's really difficult to surrender to the idea that every room you walk into, you're at a deficit simply because of your sexuality. Every room you walk into, even the ones with the gay people.
Huh.
Because many of them are so interested in, I found, not everybody, but I found that oftentimes they live in the world where straight is still better. So give it to the straight man and people will come. Give the part to the straight man and people will come to see it.
Yeah.
You know, no tea, no shade, but just, you know, it's like living in, it's just.
Kind of factual.
Yeah.
In a terrible way. When you were performing on stage, could you feel that pushback from the audience?
In what?
Like, so what they come to expect something from Billy Porter. If they don't know the show, they don't know the story, they sit down, they're like, okay, we're going to expect something. And then you kind of flip it on its head because there's so much more depth to the show than like, I don't know.
When we first did it under Obama, it was less. You know, it was more like we were preaching to the choir, especially in New York. You know, there were always the changing of hearts and minds, but the general spirit was of acceptance in that microcosm of that 8 years. Going back in the last incarnation, it was very different. I could feel the panic.
Panic.
Yeah, it's panic. I could feel the terror. I could feel the panic. I could feel everybody's just panicked. Everybody is in a space of panic. Everybody's in a space of what the fuck is going on? What is happening? How did this happen? What happened?
Yeah.
You know, and so that's not simply about Kinky Boots. It's about everything. So people come in with all that baggage that they didn't have before.
Did that strengthen your service as a leader?
Yeah.
With having that, greater panic,
yeah.
In the house, even when you're doing it.
It's nice to be able to speak directly to that. Speak directly to the fear, people's fear. You know, fear is what fuels hate. There's no reason to be afraid.
That's exactly true. Fear is exactly what fuels hate. Okay, so we're going to do a little more jumping here. Hold on. Going to Angels in America.
Yeah.
You were beyond prepared for that.
Yes.
Emotionally, spiritually, actually.
Yes.
With the memorization of the lines.
Yes.
Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah.
About knowing what to be prepared for. And or specifically, what you learned from just Angels in America in general. Because I have like a bunch of questions on it.
Well, I always talk to my students. And I always say, and I don't really know where this came from. It came from my training at Carnegie Mellon. It was, it was always about preparation. When success is when preparation and opportunity meet. That's also another thing I got from Oprah. But
her definition of luck, preparation. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. You look at the market. I always tell people, look at the marketplace and see what you're right for inside the marketplace. The things that you're really right for and the things that you love and you may not be right for. But, at some point, somebody might cast it non-traditionally.
Yeah.
Anything. Just look at it and familiarize yourself and be ready. I don't know how many times I got telephone calls for auditions the next day for stuff that was running on Broadway or stuff that was coming. And I was always ready. I always knew what was happening. I always knew what was going on. I go to theater at least 2-3 times a week my whole life. And so when I was in Greece and Angels in America opened right across this street and we were at the Eugene O'Neill Theater, I walked around the corner and sat and watched Angels in America. And I just thought, that's the representation that I'm not seeing, that I've never seen. That's what I want to do. And how the fuck am I going to get from this to that, nobody's gonna put me in the same. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
like almost unfathomable.
Nobody's gonna see that.
Yeah.
Unless I make them see it.
And you got right to that, making them see it.
Well, that was 94. The revival of Angels in America off Broadway was 2010.
So there was some
and
time.
they still didn't want to see me. So
okay, so how was that then? Them not wanting to see you, you going in the room auditioning for that.
I told you auditions are my favorite thing.
I know you.
Because that's when I get to show you.
So did you like feel? And I don't want to like. But did you feel like a pushback from before you went in the room? Were you like?
Of
Did
course.
you realize like there was a whole
Child? They saw the world for 3 months and did not have an audition. And it's interesting because there was something inside of me at that point, because I had been through so much at that point, that it was like, child, if they don't cast me in this, good luck with your project. I had no, I just knew that it's me or good luck with your project. I can't change it other than all of the work that I've already done, all of the life that I've lived, everything that I've brought to the table already.
Yeah.
And speaking of specific with your dreams, I didn't even know I was doing it, but I ran into somebody in the street, a fan, a well-meaning fan who was sort of reprimanding me for not being on stage for a number of years. You need to be on stage. You need to. I was like, I don't. Thank you for missing me.
Yeah.
Thank you for missing me, because that's what you're saying. And so I received that, but I'm not stepping another foot on stage until it's exactly what I want on my terms. What would that be? Nothing short of Angels in America is what I said. Nothing short of Angels in America.
And you spoke it.
A week later, they announced the revival. And I was like, oh my God. My God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they were seeing people. I wasn't getting a call. And I had done a residency at the Public Theater under George Wolfe around 2002 to 2005, where he worked on Carolina Change, and I was in the room for that. And so Tony knew me. Tony Kushner knew me. But once again, he didn't know that side of me. But he was, open to seeing me. I saw him out at a big fancy dinner the week after it was announced, and I was like, I just want you to know I would come out of semi-retirement for Angels, so just keep that in the back of your head.
Let him know.
No. And so this is an interesting story, because I was going to Equinox at the time, and so was he on 59th. And for 3 weeks, every time I went to Equinox, I would see him. And, as artists, we're not going at the same time. There are random times because every day is different.
Oh, yeah.
So I was going at a different time every day, and probably 93% of the time he was there.
What are the odds?
And so we would see each other and wave, hi, how you doing? I didn't say anything. Finally, at the end of the third week, he was like, have you gotten your audition for Angels yet? Just inquiring. I was like, mm-mm. The next day I got the call.
Wow.
And my agent was panicked, because they wanted me to come in the next day and prepare 3 scenes. And that's when I said, there's one role in the entirety of everything that exists that is right for me. It's been around for 20 years. If I don't already know it, that's my fault. I know every fucking word. So what scenes do they need? And I went in the next day.
Oh my God.
I pulled out my script from storage. I went to storage and pulled out my script and read the script and got the scenes, rememorized, and went in the next day and opened up my mouth to say the first line. And an hour later, 1 hour, I was in the room for an hour. Tony Kushner got up from the table, with tears in his eyes, gave me a bear hug and said, "You are the voice I had in my head when I wrote this play 25 years ago." I know. That I know. I've just been trying to get somebody to say that. That's why I love auditions. The entire room was like,
Aghast.
yeah. It was like,
You're like, good luck with your project.
it just, I can do a lot of stuff. You know, a lot of other people can do a lot of stuff. I do know what I do that nobody else does. You have to understand the thing that you bring to the table that nobody else brings. We all have something like that. We all have that special thing, you know. And that thing was thwarted for so many years because it wasn't cool to be gay. You know, the first thing they say in acting school is you have to know who you are. You have to be true to who you are. You know,
Except if
you have to
it's-
know,
yeah.
you have to, in order to be a good actor. And then the next thing you do is tell me I have to change who I am. It was like,
You're like, is anyone else seeing this?
it's so like, it was a very difficult thing.
Yeah. And I guess you would say thoroughly prepared you for.
The world.
Yeah.
And
and
life.
subsequently. Yeah. You're very good at knowing what you can do, which makes you very unique. Because once you get to the city, everyone can sing, everyone's cute, everyone can do it. And you have to find what makes you unique, what you just said. That's obviously cultivated over time. Is there advice that you would give someone going to these auditions and going to these, singing and acting and everything? They just want to, this is a two-part question. So going to these auditions, singing, acting, they want to get the job. Maybe they're desperate for it. They're showing that desperation, but knowing that your time is coming, not showing the desperation, becoming secure in that.
It's a fine line. It's such a fine line because having belief in yourself and having confidence is different from being cocky. But the line is like,
Very thin.
it's such a thin line.
It's very thin.
It's like as thin as a thread.
Can you
You
define?
could cross over so quickly. You know.
Dip your foot. Go back.
And I've seen the difference. You know, I don't know. It was the embracing of the totality of who and what I am that allowed for me to settle in and just show all of that.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually the world will catch up. You know, you have to believe that. I never, ever thought it would look like Lola. I didn't even know to dream to look at it like that, you know, to look for something like that.
Yeah.
You know, this was the 80s. I came out in the 80s. I was trying to be the first black Valjean or the first black, you know, Freddie in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, or, you know, a black MC in the revival of Cabaret, where they told me when I asked for an audition that that's not the story they're telling. It's like, oh, so you're not telling a story of discrimination and oppression? That's not the story you're telling? Because, you know,
That's yeah.
I bought a book
I do
for the
know.
entire staff, for the entire creative team, called what's the name of the book? Oh my God. Growing Up Black in Nazi Germany. I can't remember the title right now, but it's Growing Up Black in Nazi Germany, and I sent
Write it down.
and I sent. It's a title, and then the subtitle is Growing Up Black in Nazi Germany, and I sent that book. I signed a copy of that book to like 10 people at the roundabout, including the director, including the writer. I just sent them all to them. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, nobody talks about that part of it. And I try not to harbor on that part of it because there was a bigger plan. You know, there was a bigger plan for me outside of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. You know, I couldn't get an audition for that show. I couldn't even get seen for that show 20 years ago. But they sure as hell wanted me to replace on Broadway. I was like, but I just did when I needed it. I just created my own shit down the street. You know, it's like, it was really, really interesting, you know, because it's like she's iconic. You know, Miss Lola is iconic, and you've never seen it before. Nobody talks about that part of it. Nobody talks about the trailblazing part of it because we're past that. Everybody thinks, you know, it's never been a black man. It's never been a black man. I'm not talking about the fucking maid in La Cage aux Folles. I'm talking about Zaza in the front, you know, who's the emotional glue of the story. You know what I mean? Not the sidekick, you know, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is. It's so amazing because you have literally trailblazed this right down the street.
Yeah.
And we hear so often that it's like, oh, it's so good to be yourself, be who you are.
It's easy to be who you are when what you are is what's popular.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. And being a black faggot was not popular for a really long time. For anybody. And it's barely popular now. I am getting some work. I'm very happy about it. And I'm trying to parlay that into, you know, the rest of my life and just make sure that I'm capitalizing on it while we're still popular.
So I want to talk about the soul of Richard Rodgers. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome
for creating that. I know you're like, okay, great. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So was that a long-term thought? Like, had you heard those songs back when you were a kid and you're like, oh, these have, you know, like you saw it for what it was versus like, like carefully taught, you know, like those kind of things? Or was that?
It was when I was in school at Carnegie Mellon and my voice was still what it was then in my teenage years and my, you know, in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very specific, unique voice, and traditional male tenor musical theater things were not working for me. They were in the wrong key, or I would have to change the key, or, you know, whatever. And so that sort of ignited the spark of, you have to create your own sound. You have to show people what the sound is that you bring that's unique and exclusive to you. Which was, you know, getting back to Pity the Child when it says ad lib. I'm not going to sing it like the man on the record. I'm going to do what my version is, especially when it says ad lib. Now, you know, you get into this space, and back then, really, you know, it's still, there's still grumblings, purists grumbling. But I also took, you know, I came to New York City, and the place that you went to practice your stuff, you know, were the cabaret spaces. And so I started doing cabaret shows, and it's like, I'm not going to just show up and sing any of this music traditionally. I'm going to put my own spin on it because it's my own personal show.
Yeah.
So I started really early rearranging things and reinterpreting, you know, classics and making them my own with, you know, working with musical directors and things of that nature. And so I've just always been doing it. And I did it with a Sondheim review that we worked exclusively with Sondheim on, that became a Sondheim Review with an all-black cast where
Did you
Katina Miller was in it, and it was like one of her first jobs, and Leslie Odom Jr. is one of his first jobs, and Brian Terrell Clark, one of his first jobs, and Rima Webb, and it was just Josh Henry, all the people who are now the Blacktors and Blackstresses that everybody wants.
Yeah.
I was one of the people who said to them, come over here and be exactly who you are.
Wow.
Don't change the tone of your voice. Don't change the sound of it to sound like them white people. Because that's not what you're going to get hired for. You're going to get hired ultimately for the thing that makes you special. Leslie Odom Jr. came in singing like that. And the only thing people wanted to do was make him more traditional sounding. And it's like, just sing like that.
Yeah, be you.
Now, find levels inside of it, but sing like that. Don't change yourself. That's the lesson that I taught before I was successful. And that's the lesson that I'm glad I used on myself. It has eventually worked for me.
Yes, yeah. Did you create that all on your own? The whole Sondheim?
Me and my writing partner, yeah.
You went and arranged that and then prepared a full product
me
for
and my
him.
writing partner. And so, James St. Pleaner. And so when Susie Dietz, who was the head of Reprise out in Los Angeles at the time, commissioned me to do the same thing with Richard Rodgers. And we did it as a concert in 2009. And then when I got this record deal with Sony, it was like they wanted something like that. And I thought, well, let me go back to what we had done. And I just really updated it and made the focus the more current sound. The concert that we had done in 2009 was sort of like an unspoken historical romp through African-American musical idioms, starting with jazz and, moving all the way up. But this, I wanted it to be cohesively one sound, and a sound that doesn't get much play on Broadway. That sound doesn't get much play. R&B, soul. We have Hamilton now, and it's great. It's a beautiful, beautiful show. But the representation that is music, singing, as opposed to rapping, is not really represented.
Yeah, no.
As much as it could be, and in a real contemporary way, and a real authentic contemporary way. So I'm trying to work on that.
You're such an educator. You really are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's for some, maybe prior to listening to our conversation here, it can open their minds up to how much more you're capable of, if you don't listen to those other voices who pull you back down and say, no. And that comes from fear.
Yeah.
And you've been dodging that in and outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's worked so well. That's just so incredible. I love that album. Everyone needs to listen to that. It's incredible. It's on YouTube too. So just go right to YouTube. Your writing career and your directing career.
Yes.
We'll start
It's slowly beginning.
Yes, it's
Slow
beginning.
process. It's slowly happening.
We need to emphasize that.
It's slowly happening.
What's your writing process? Do you write in the day? Do you like morning writing, evening writing, music? Do you listen to any music while you do it?
It's usually in the morning.
Okay.
I'm best, waking up at 6 or 7 and just whatever it is, getting it done before noon. The difficult part for me as a writer is that writing is still supplemental financially. Like I wasn't making any money
Right.
until very recently as a writer.
Right.
You know, I make money as a director scattered. So I still have to go to work. I still have to do 8 shows a week. I still have to, you know, to make the money so that I can
Do that.
so that I can create this other version of myself, which, you know, in the valley, you know, of my life, I realized I need just as much, if not more, than actually being on stage and performing.
To write and direct.
To write and direct and create it, you know, to create the thing I'm not seeing. You know, to really hunker down and tell my story.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have morning rituals? Is there something you do in the morning when you wake up every day or almost
Yeah, I
every
wake
day?
up and I write in my journal and have coffee and write in my journal every day.
And
That's from the Artist Way morning pages. I've
Okay.
carried that
Yes.
for the last
Good
17
book.
years.
It's a great book. Now, question for you with
I
that.
don't write it longhand.
Oh,
like
okay.
they say.
Oh, okay.
I've moved beyond that. I
It's
type
more-
it in my journal.
Okay.
But I did longhand for many years.
Do you have evening rituals before you go to bed? Anything you do?
No, not really.
Nothing in particular. Okay. Okay. So, this past December 27th was 27 years for you. Am I saying that correctly? Am I
I think
correctly
so. I got here in
in New York?
December 27th, 1990. So what is that?
27.
27
Yeah,
years?
2017. That was 2000. Yeah, if I did the math correctly. Hope I didn't let you
Yes.
down, Mom. Okay, she's a math teacher. So, this is a little bit of a cliche question, but I'm interested if anything comes to mind. Advice you would have given yourself 27 years, or if you could give yourself advice 27 years ago, what you would tell yourself from that first. Or
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
I love
Fasten
that.
them and fasten them now, boo. Because
Wear the shoulder strap. It's going to take you. Okay. So, watching your friends grow up in the business, did you make pacts with your friends? Or, you know, like, is there, like, when you first show up in the city, like, and I showed up here with a bunch of friends and seeing them go off and do different things, television and film and whatnot, it's always fun to realize, like, oh, we were there together struggling at the beginning of time for us in the city.
Yeah.
Did you make any pacts with any friends, or is it kind of like,
it was unspoken.
do you see them?
Yes, it was unspoken. You know, one of the things that I'm going through right now is it's particularly 3 of us who, you know, because I'm 48, right? So those of us who were out in the 80s and who chose to stay out and who chose to take that road less traveled, you know, it was very bumpy for us. And it was really, really, really difficult for us. You know, the world has cracked open in a different way, and we see people who are a little bit younger than us having opportunities that didn't exist. There was nothing like Hamilton when I graduated from school. If it wasn't a musical review where you were showing up to tap dance for the, you know, the white people, there wasn't anything to, like, there were no stories, there were no human, you know, like, other than Dreamgirls, you know, which you can only do Dreamgirls so many times. You know, which I love the show, but, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many opportunities and it's so beautiful. I mean, even the fucking Lion King, you know, that didn't even exist. It's like, so, you know, to watch it happen and to now be the old guy who can benefit from the trails we've blazed. You know, my friend Nathan Lee Graham, who's on LA to Vegas, my friend Wilson Cruz, who's on Star Trek. You know, it's like literally in this past year, it's really?
You're like, this is wow.
Like, really? We're actually having a moment. You know, I'm getting ready to be on TV. Like, for real? Like, like for real.
Yeah.
And doing exactly the kind of work that I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kind of art as activism work. You know,
Yeah.
on a Ryan Murphy television show. You know, like,
Just like, yeah. Speechless.
it blows my mind.
Wow. You've really shown up for your life.
Yeah, you have to. No matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is, it really, and it's not easy sometimes.
Yeah.
Really sucks sometimes.
Some days you just want to stay in bed.
Sucks.
You just want to
It
stay
really
in
sucks
bed.
sometimes, but you know, when you do it, when you're truthful, when it finally happens, it's on your own terms. It's like, it's on my terms.
Yeah. It's affirming. Like,
Yeah.
oh, all this time I was right. I knew I
was
knew I
right.
would prevail.
I was right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I have some, like, because we're gonna wrap up here.
Okay.
We've been going an hour. I don't know if it feels like
Oh,
it.
we have?
Yeah. So I have some like curveball questions here at the end. Okay. First, is there a book that you've gifted quite a lot, or a book
The Artist's
that's
Way.
The Artist's Way?
All the time.
Okay, I'm putting that one in the show
I
notes
give it
so
all
people
the
can.
time.
Is there anything you believe in that others may think is insane?
Anything I believe in. No, I don't know.
That's
a
okay.
really interesting question. I don't, I think my family and the people who I grew up with in church, like that world
Yeah.
would not be so thrilled with the idea that I question what the meaning of God is now. It was such an absolute when you're growing up. And I'm questioning where I fit in the paradigm of that. It's like I'm a very spiritual person. I call my spiritual, whatever. I call it God.
Yeah.
Just because that's what we call it. But when you break it down, I'm not sure what that means anymore. And I'm on a mission to figure that out. I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
It's like seeing what's going on in the world and, and this has been since the beginning of history, but, every war that has ever been fought is about somebody's God.
Yep.
Every one of them.
Yep.
I don't know how to respond
Where's
to
the
that.
sense in that? Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to that. That's something that I've been really, really struggling with over the last decade or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than a decade.
What is common piece of incorrect advice that you hear in your field or in life?
A common piece of incorrect advice. When the energy surrounding you is about forsaking yourself, forsaking your truth, it's very easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
When you look at the landscape and you see no job or you see no money or you see, blacklist or you see whatever it is that you might see, the last thing you want to do is forsake yourself. Don't let anybody tell you to do that.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Do you have a favorite failure or a failure that set you up for success?
My favorite failure is that the Broadway star thing didn't happen before I was forced to find myself for real. that's my favorite failure, because Lola wouldn't have been me. Because I was in the quagmire of trying to please people and trying to be the thing that everybody wanted me to be. And,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we can talk about this or not. Your new show, the TV show coming out.
We can talk
this
about,
summer.
we can just talk about what it is.
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love to. Yeah. So for people who don't know.
Yeah, it's a
the
new show
coming
called
out.
Pose.
Yeah.
That was created by Stephen Cannells and, executive produced by Ryan Murphy. And, it takes place in the 80s. It's two worlds colliding, the rise of Wall Street, i.e. Trump, and the sort of black and brown LGBTQ Paris is burning ball culture, and how those two energies were clashing in the 80s, while this community was fighting for their lives and that other community was taking all the money.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be on
Sound familiar?
art imitating. This is going to be on FX
It's going to be on FX
this summer,
June. Mhm.
June. Oh, I'm excited for it. I'm
And
excited for it.
He wrote the part for me. Once again, it's like Ryan created this part for me. The trailblazing thing again.
Yeah.
The paying off, the waiting for years and years and years for this moment. I've wanted film and television for so long. Never fit in, never the right fit.
Boom.
And to have it be the character that it is, and in the television show,
Yeah.
it's like this administration is trying to erase the word transgender from just erase an entire group of people.
Yeah.
Just think, we can just ban that. This series has 5 transgender actresses of color in leading series regular roles.
It's amazing.
It's like, that's what I mean by art as activism. It's like, this is coming out, and you can be rest assured that all those white people in that White House are going to lose their minds.
Yeah.
You can't erase people, whether you agree or not. You can't erase people.
Is there a quote that comes to mind that you put on a billboard, if you could, for hundreds, millions of people to see?
Lord Jesus.
We can come back to that if you need to think on it for a second.
Lord.
Okay, we can come back to that one. I want to cover, because we're wrapping up here. Are those native, Ken?
These are native Ken.
Yes, they
these
are.
are my husband's new spring collections, and nobody has them yet.
They're beautiful. So for everyone who can't see, because we're just doing audio, those are his glasses, and they're gorgeous. I love these glasses.
Yes, it's a bigger frame,
Yes.
dramatic.
All your glasses are native, Ken. All your sunglasses, a lot of them.
Since he started a year ago.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
since my husband started the line with his partner, Chris, native Ken, 8th Avenue between 19th and 20th on the east side of the street.
Yes. Plug it.
I'm very proud of him, and
Yeah.
he's taken that leap on his own creatively, and, leaving the comfort of doing it for other people and doing it for himself. And it's really,
That's what
it's really wonderful to see.
They look great.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
Thank you for giving me your time.
My pleasure. Sorry it took so
chat.
long.
Oh no.
The cancellations and the
Life happens.
I'm not that girl.
Is there any parting words you want to give our listeners, or any?
George Wolf said to me at one point, this is one of the pieces of advice that I hold on to all the time. You can't ever wait for other people to give you permission to practice your art. You have to be practicing it all the time,
not waiting.
regardless.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so simple, and it's so true.
Yeah, it can be so difficult for some to overcome that
Yeah.
barrier of fear, to
Yeah.
give themselves permission. I love that. Billy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Please follow me on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. Also, if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, please rate and review it. I absolutely love feedback, so feel free to reach out to me there on Instagram or give those reviews on iTunes. I will read and respond. Much love. Chat soon.